afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our follow-up introduction workshop, user-defined objects, creation and management, that we started during Blueprint. We wanted to make sure that we, held true to what we promised and, answered a lot of your questions and dive a little bit deeper. Before we kick things off, I just wanted to let everyone know that this will be recorded and we will send out the link after. So you might get that tomorrow. Also know that we are going to unmute everyone. So if you have questions along the way, stop Bernie, hey Bernie, got a question, or whatever, and I'm sure that she'll jump right in and help you. And also know that I will be monitoring the chat room, and so if you have a question that you want to type out, feel free to do that, and I'll do my best to answer throughout. But with that, I will let Bernie kick it off.
Thank you, Kisha. So I'm going to, I think, unmute everybody. Okay, it's not actually showing that it unmuted, but I think you may be able to individually unmute yourselves. If not, if you let me know in chat, then we'll see what we can do about that. But I think you can unmute yourself in the control panel. So hi, I really wish that we were doing this in person, but this is the second best thing, and I'm really glad to have the opportunity to finish out the session from Vegas. I knew that we were probably being a little optimistic with getting all the content in, but in between a few technical issues that it took a while to get everybody logged in, and then my propensity to talk a lot, we ran out of time. So what I'm going to do is, I know that we've got at least one person who had signed up for the session in Vegas and then wasn't able to attend. And I mean, frankly, I actually put the session together and I still had to go back and review what we had actually covered during the hours that we were together in Vegas. So I'm going to start off with a quick overview of what we did create and go through during that first session. And then in today's session, I'm going to get into the details of where you might use CafeOne pages and how to go about setting those up. And then my personal favorite, just because I think it's a hidden gem and almost nobody's using it, is the EnterpriseOne Search. And I'm going to try and give you some examples of where I'm using these. But I think the challenging thing with all of these slightly more involved UDOs, user-defined objects, is figuring out the right time to use them without just proliferating them and using them everywhere. So with that, I am actually going to turn my camera off for just now. All right. So you're going to notice that the slide deck is the same template that I was using in Vegas. I wanted to keep all of the slides in one deck for you so that you didn't end up juggling multiple ones. So apologize for the dates being out of date, but everything else should be current. All right. So a quick review of where we had got to. And I'm going to hop into JD Edwards real quick. So the first thing that we had done was to create an EnterpriseOne page. And what that lets us do, I'm sure that practically everybody had seen these before anyway, but the E1 pages are a much easier way for our end users to navigate through the applications that they need to get to. As an literally old user of early JD Edwards, navigating through the menu trees, the task views, was it was a necessity, but it was also a bit of a pain. So not only do the E1 pages give us the capability to simplify user navigation, but it also gives us an additional mechanism to be able to grant and remove security, or at least control security, to some of the applications. At a page level, I'm able to control which user roles or which users have access to it. So when we created these very simple E1 pages, we were building our exercises around using the address book, and I picked that just because almost across the enterprise, somebody has to interact with the address book in one way or another. So it's fairly common that people have at least seen it. So we created a simply one page with an address book inquiry, and then we had buttons on here to get to the work with user-defined objects, where we can control sharing and security for the objects that we create. And then the Web OMW, where the object management workbench, where we can put our objects into projects and actually promote them between environments. So that was the first thing that we had done. And I had shown one of the other features of Udo's, which is the ability to create what are called form extensions. So form extensions let us do a couple of things. They let us display fields that are part of the view in an application, but which aren't part of the standard published grid. So for example, if you think about something like sales order entry, or actually a lot of screens will have user-defined fields, user-defined dates, user-defined codes, user-defined amounts that are in the business view, but they're not actually displayed in the standard grid. So form extensions give us a way to expose those fields without having to have any development, which used to be the approach to doing it. And then we've also got the capability at an individual form extension level to change the text labels that appear in that form. So without doing vocabulary overrides through the data dictionary, where it's going to affect what text is going to display anywhere that field's used, it gives us the capability to change it at actually a custom grid level. So if in address book, if I go back and show all of my columns, I can see in here that the fields that I've relabeled in my custom grid, they're actually based on address book category codes 1, 2, 3, and 4. But in here, I've renamed them so that when a user is using this grid, they're going to see what that's actually representing. So that's through form extensions. Form extensions we're not getting to within this workshop, but they are pretty cool, and I will actually be offering a session this fall on using them. So then the next thing that we had done was to create a simple query. And what a query is, it's kind of like using the search fields and the QBE fields within a form, and then being able to save what your search was, except for the fact that the query actually gives you more capability to put search logic in there. So for example, you can set ranges on dates. You can put multiple different types in. So for example, here, if I'm looking based on search type in the address book, I'm limited to having one value in here. But when I'm building a query, I've got the capability to specify multiple different search types that I want to be returned. It's kind of handy if you're dealing with orders, work orders, sales orders, purchase orders, any orders, where you've got multiple different document types. And sometimes you want to see just a subset of those document types included when you're doing a query, rather than having to go through and look each one up individually. Your query can give you return the results for multiple different types at the same time. So the query, if I find my original one, so what that was allowing me to do was pick fields that are searchable in my form and put search criteria about what I wanted to actually return. Now, in this example, I was using this as a query that somebody might use if there were mandatory fields in the address book, as a mechanism to be able to check if we had any records that didn't have values in those required fields. So this is matching on any of these fields being blank, and if they are blank, then when I run this query, I would see those being displayed. I've got this set to be run when I select it, so when I actually choose the query, it's going to effectively execute these searches in the grid, and it's like me clicking find. This run when selected is automatically going to return those results. And if I always want my grid to open displaying this particular query, and this is version specific, then I can set it as a default, and as soon as I open that application, it's automatically going to apply that query. So think of that in a situation where you have users who are maybe associated to a particular group of branch plants, or maybe it's company specific. This would give you a way to be able to narrow down what results are being showed, whether they're working with orders or shipments or picking or accounts receivable or any of those things. So this is a real simple one, but you can see in here that you've got greater capability than what you would get if you were just using the regular search fields within the application. All right, hopefully it'll let me out here. I don't like this control panel because it sits right where I need to be. Let me move them. All right. So that was the query, and I can toggle backwards and forwards, so you can see that there's multiple queries in here that were created during the Vegas session. Whatever queries I've got, I can toggle backwards and forwards between them, so I'm changing the view of the results that are displayed. And like I said, because this one is set to run when I select it, it's like it's clicking find, and it's automatically going to show me those results. So that was the query. And then we've kind of gotten easy buttons is the way I think about some of this. I don't even have to come into an application anymore to get information. So let's say that I was having an issue with having these address records getting created for my customers that didn't have all of the required fields populated. I wouldn't even have to come into an application to get visibility to that. And that's where this little dude here, my watch list, that's where my watch list comes into play. This sits over the top of a query and is periodically checking to see if I have got records in the system that meet my search criteria. So this one is just using that same query that was looking for address records that are missing one of those mandatory fields. You could use it there. I use it a lot for watch lists, notifying the warehouse if they've got pick tickets that are within a day of their scheduled pick date, to make sure they know what they should be expecting to pick, or notifying salespeople if there are sales order lines that are past their scheduled pick date that haven't actually been printed on a pick ticket to the warehouse yet. So these are kind of notifications for something that you need a user to take action on. Orchestrations do give us some kind of like bells and whistles that we can build on, where we can send emails and stuff like that. But if you have users who are regularly coming back to their homepage, this is a really effective way to tell them when something needs to happen. And when I click on this watch list, it's going to take me straight into the address book, execute that query so that I am immediately presented with whatever records it is that need attention. All right, so that is where we had got to during the session in Vegas. And the next thing that we were going to move on to was the CafeOne pages. And I'm going to pause for just a second and make sure that I don't have any questions. I just want to check, could one of you, maybe somebody, try to unmute yourself? I just want to make sure that you're able to and that I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can, perfect. All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't sitting there in purgatory and not able to say anything. All right, so let me flip back over here for a second. I don't like to do death by PowerPoint. You guys all work in JD Edwards, so my preference is to actually be in the system as much as I can. But what you'll find in the slide deck is that for everything that I'm going through today, there are screenshots in here. So if you have problems either replicating the exercises that I'm leading through, or if you want to refer back to these and play around, the best way to learn these is to just play. You don't get a sense of the flexibility of them, and neither do you get a sense of a limitation just doing one of them. So get in there and see how far you can push these dudes. So CafeOne, it's a strange name for an object, but it's because it's named from a composite application framework. The one piece of it comes from the UX1, the user experience name. That's where CafeOne came from. And what it lets us do is view the content from multiple sources at the same time. As an example, if I'm working in sales order entry, a lot of times I need to know things about either the customer or about the item or past sales or supply and demand. And having to get in and out of multiple different windows while I'm trying to do something with a sales order or having the customer on the phone, bouncing in and out of multiple applications is pretty inefficient. And frankly, having been an end user, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck. And what that used to turn into, in my experience, was for some of the most heavy hitting lookups, we would end up having to do custom applications so that users could get access to all of the information that they needed kind of at their fingertips in the right point in the process. And CafeOne gives us a pretty solid solution to most of those situations. And that's kind of the running theme with these user-defined objects, is they're giving us solutions where we used to have to do really gnarly things in the system to make it meet the business need, and the users didn't necessarily like how it delivered, or we were having to do enhancements. So it gives us tools to avoid doing the enhancements. And frankly, it makes happier end users. Just the knowledge that I can see what I need in the place that I need to see it kind of takes the angst out of doing the job for a lot of end users. So we're working with the address book partly because it's a simple place to learn, and also because it has tentacles that go into a lot of different business areas. But places that I have seen this used, if you're doing anything where you've got related orders. So for example, if you have a sales order line that is related to a purchase order for either a transfer or a direct shipment, if you're working on the customer service side and you want to be able to see the customer ledger inquiry, if you're in the warehouse and you're working with shipments and you want to see the sales order detail that ties into a shipment. One of my personal favorites, it's a symptom of bad process, but at sales order entry, or for that matter, purchase order entry, to be able to see the notes that are attached to that address entity so that I've got my customer instructions displayed right at the point of sales order entry. Pretty much anywhere where you'll be doing one task, but you need to see a set of related information is going to be a candidate for using CafeOne. All right, so I'm going to hop back into JD Edwards, and what I'm going to show you is a simple way to give kind of a consolidated view of address book information and the customer master billing information from within one view. All right, so I'm going to go into my address book, and anybody that has worked in the address book to this day, I'm in and out of here a lot, and it drives me crazy every time I need to navigate to get into the billing information. So from here, if I want to get into my billing information, I've got to click to get into customer master. I've got to click to get into my billing information. And then depending on what I want to see in here, I've potentially got another click to get to my second page of billing info. This is for a lot of people, they would kind of laugh at this and say that this is not the most useful example ever. But for anybody that is going from address book and bouncing in and out of the customer master pages a lot, that's a lot of clicks. So I would argue there's efficiency gains to be had here. So if I want to add a CafeOne page, then what I'm going to do is go up to my control panel up at the top, and I'm going to edit the form layout. And that is going to give me the option up here. So I'm going to click plus. I'm going to be adding something. And in this example, and this is what you'll probably do the majority of the time, I'm going to add a separate panel for an existing JD Edwards form. I can also add in here URLs out to third-party websites. So think about things like if you're dealing with freight and you need to be able to link from a data element that's in your system out to a third-party website. This is one mechanism for doing it. So when I click on this, I'm going to click and hold because I need to tell it where I want to put this additional pane. I can put it on the side, I can put it on the bottom, I can change the shape, how much of the screen it's going to take up. So I'm going to put this right here. And then it's going to ask me what application I want to link to. So I am going to link to one of the CRM customer lookups. And I want to go to customer detail. So you can see here that when I'm specifying the application, I can choose which one of the forms related to that application I want to go to. So from here, I can go to the detail, I can go to the inquiry. I've got multiple different landing places. And I can also specify the version that I want to go to. And if I've got a personal form set up, I'm able to specify which personal form. So what the personal forms will do is they'll let you hide and move around all of the different fields that are displayed in the form. If you think about, well, address book's probably a good example. You know, there's a lot of fields in there that many organizations just don't use. And so you're clicking through many different tabs and you're maybe only filling out a couple of the fields on each tab. What the personal form will let you do is consolidate the fields that you do use onto either a single tab, or you can move those up so that they're right at the start of what's displayed. And you can simply hide the things that don't need to be displayed. So when I select my version, if there's a personal form that I want to be displayed to the users, then I can also do that. The name, it won't let me change this. This is system generated, and I can give it whatever description I want in here. And then I've got a couple of options. So if I leave it as a static link, it's saying that when I open this, I'm not going to be passing any search criteria from my driver form into my CafeOne form. But usually the biggest use of this is if you're working with a record in one form and I want to see additional information that's related in a second form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my address number, and it's getting mapped to this address number. So this is a one-to-one match, but as long as the data types are compatible, you're able to map these to different fields. So for example, if I wanted to use the ship to address on a purchase order, and I wanted that to take me into the supplier master, I would be mapping the address number in this screen would be going to the ship to address number, the SHAN, from my driver screen. So this is going to be the field that's getting populated in my receiving screen, and it's coming from the address number in my driver screen. You can see when I come here, it lights up that screen. I'm not going to do it with conditional logic here, but I can choose. Do I always want this CafeOne screen to be displayed when there are matching criteria? Or do I only want it to do it sometimes? So as an example, let's say you only want to display this second screen if there's a search type that is a parent address. So I could say I only want this to be displayed. Right now it's matching C because that's what's in my form. But I could change this so that I only want this second screen to be displayed if I'm working with a specific search type. So only pop this up if it's a ship to, or only pop this up if it's a parent, only pop it up if it's an employee, whatever it is that you want to drive this. One of the places I've used this with conditional logic is in sales order entry, where I will prompt the user if they're entering lines that are direct ship lines to make sure that they've got the correct supplier and things like that on the line. All right, so this should be good to go. I haven't actually saved my UDO yet. So if I was to click the delete button, I'm throwing away everything I've done to this point, and I would start over if I needed to do this. I'm going to save it, and it's possible that 3 months later, what do you not like? Oh, interesting. I've actually got an error in my receiving application. That's kind of funny. All right, so let me see if I can figure out where this error is coming from. I better know where it's coming from. Let me fix this real fast. Will it let me do it in here? It won't let me do it. All right, I'm going to cancel out of here real fast, and then I'll come back and do this. I have a horrible feeling that I am in our sandbox environment right now, which is basically Terillium's playground for every single one of our consultants. And I have a funny feeling that somebody deleted a category code or something. the dangers of doing it live, I guess. Well, maybe that's not it. All right, let me try a different customer. All right, let's try this again. All right, so not a bad thing for you to see this. So once I'm in my application, I go to edit form layout. It's going to ask me what kind of CafeOne I'm doing, and I'm going to be adding a form. And I'm going to click it, hold it, and drag it to where I want the additional form to be displayed on my screen. CA. And then my dynamic link is going to let me link from the address number in the address book to the address number in my customer billing information. Let's see if it will let me save this. There we go. That's better. All right, so it saved it now, and this time I didn't have to give it a name because it defaults in the object name for me. But what you're seeing is that now when I click on an address in here, it's automatically going to refresh this information over in this pane. So in the CRM customer view, I can get to basically everything. This is kind of funny because I've got some security that isn't allowing me to do it in here. So this is a good example of where your standard JD Edwards security is still going to be in place even when you're using user-defined objects. So if I can't go into the application and do this action, any of the UDOs are not going to allow me to do it. If I put an E1 button on a page for an application that a user doesn't have security for, they'll see access denied. The button will be there, but it won't allow them to do anything with it. But this gives me the ability to get into all of my billing information. I can see related addresses. I can see my category codes. So this is an easy way to get into additional information. I love some of the CRM applications. There's one of them that will take you straight into the address book notes, which is kind of handy in many different places in the organization. So as you're doing one transaction, you can see all of the notes related to either an employee or a vendor or a customer. So that is the CafeOne page, and then I can close in and out of this at will. So let me get out of here. Now if I come back into my address book, so it doesn't automatically bring that layout to me. I'm not sure it actually saved that one, but you'll see that I've got multiple different layouts in the screen that I can come in and out of. So let's say I have a customer open and I want to just hop straight in to see their customer ledger information. It's automatically pulling that customer over into the screen. And if I don't want to see it, I can just close it down and it will put a little tab over here on the side so that if I do want to look at that again, let's say I've got a different customer number that I'm working with now. Let me grab this guy. If I open this up, now it's going to pull that information over and it's going to show me this guy doesn't have any AR, but it's going to update it. I can also choose to pop this out into a separate window. So if I don't want to have it displayed and taking up the real estate on this page, I can open it and it will open up a separate window for me. You can have multiple different CafeOnes on the same page. So I could have one that opens up over on the side. I could have one that opens up down on the bottom. And you have to be a bit careful, because unless you've got dual monitors, it ends up taking up a lot of real estate, and you can end up just not being able to make use of any of the information you're seeing. But you can have multiple ones of these, and then just open and close them as you want to. And if you want to get back to the point where, I just popped it out. If you want to get back to the point where you're not seeing any of those CafeOne views, I would just go back to having no layout, and then all I'm seeing is my regular form display. All right, so this is kind of an interesting situation. When we were in the workshop in Vegas, it was very easy for me to walk through this step by step, and everybody be able to follow along and create their own UDOs. So I'm kind of torn between doing one more run through so that everybody sees it one more time, and then you can give it a go yourself. Or I can just verbally walk you through each step and see if you're able to follow along that way. Does anybody have a strong preference for the best way to walk through doing one of these? I'm going to take silence as no. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through doing this step by step on my screen, and I'm also going to give a verbal of what I'm doing so that you'll be able, if you need to jump backwards and forwards between your JD Edwards session and the webinar, so that you can see it. So what you're going to want to do is get signed in to JD Edwards. The only person, that's not where I'm meant to go, the only person that I think may have an issue with the user ID that I sent to them is Tim. Tim, I think that I had told you to use Blue 19, and it's a very unhappy login for some reason. So if you could use Blue 21 instead, I did make sure that that's working for you.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
So if everybody logs in, I tried to clean up all of the pages that we had created in Vegas so that they've all got the same buttons as starting places. All right, so when you get there, and if I start getting ahead of you, just holler. So when you get there, you're going to go into the address book button. So that's going to open up the work with addresses form. And then up in the top right of the screen where it's got your user ID number, there's a little drop down arrow next to it. You're going to click on that. It's going to give you the drop down. And under the personalization section, the last one in there is edit form layout. You're going to click on that. And what that's going to do is it'll open up a panel at the top of the screen, and over towards the left, there's like a little icon with a piece of paper and a plus sign. Now, this is the point that I forget every single time I go to do one of these. You can't just click on it. You have to click and left with the left mouse button and hold, because what you're going to do is click and drag to where you want to put this on your screen. So if you click on that piece of paper with the plus sign and hold, when you drag it down into, you're going to do this. I'm sorry, I'm lying. This is, like I just said, every single time I do this, I get it wrong. First of all, you're going to click on that piece of paper, And then it's going to open up a little pane where you're going to choose the option to add an EnterpriseOne form. And you can actually tell that you need to grab and hold this because it's got a little hand icon instead of your normal pointer. So where it says drag and drop to workspace to create, you're going to click on EnterpriseOne form and keep that mouse button held. And then drag it to wherever you want to put that panel on your screen. I don't hear any hollering, so I'm assuming everybody's okay. Okay, so now you've got like an empty shell where your new CafeOne pane is going to be. The application that we're linking to is it's P90 CA080, P90 CA080. And then when you click down into the form button, you're going to want to choose the customer detail form. It's the second one in the list. It's going to default into the version ZJDE 0001. That's fine. You can leave that in there. And then the other thing that we're going to do in here is down in the bottom left, we're going to change it. It defaults to a static link. You're going to click on the button for dynamic link. And then it's going to ask you, what are we going to map to? So on that top line, the parameter address number, in the box, you're going to click and change it from remains as to is mapped to. And then over in your driver pane, you're going to see that it gives you little yellow plus signs. And we need to click on the plus sign for address number. And so what we've just done is we've told it that when we open up this CafeOne page, we're going to take the address number from our address book form, and that is going to get passed in as the address number in our customer detail in our CRM customer form. All right. And then up in the top left, there's your little floppy disk icon with a green check mark. So this is in your CafeOne form. Up in the top left, we're now going to save this. And mine doesn't like it because I've got an invalid address number. Oh, and I know why it didn't save it before. Okay, so up in the top right, there's a line up in that control panel, and right now it's gonna say create in the drop-down box because we're creating a new CafeOne page. What you're gonna do is click on the floppy disk with the green check mark, and it's going to prompt you for a name. So you can either put in your blue ID or put in your name, put in a description of whatever it is. This just has to be a unique name. It won't let you have two user-defined objects that have the same name. So I'm going to use blue 44 CafeOne. And when I click OK, it's going to save my CafeOne page. And I've got an error, but it's actually within the form. It's not a CafeOne error. All right, is everybody good, or did I lose anybody? If I didn't lose anybody, it will be a small miracle.
I still have all the same errors after changing the name to my user ID, but I also don't have a specific address selected. I may have missed that step.
Well, so that's just going to control what's showing up in that CafeOne page. So even before I save it, it's still kind of behaving like it's active, but it doesn't actually save it until I save the user-defined object. So even if you've got, do you actually have an address number in your address book grid right now?
I did not, but I just went and added the same one you have, and so now my screen looks like yours.
Okay, so now you're seeing the same, there's something wrong with this that I am.
Yep.
Okay. But you managed to save the actual CafeOne?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Anybody need any help getting to this point? All right. So I'm not going to get deep into the actual administration of publishing and sharing these user-defined objects, but obviously we just created one. Right now, the only user that would be able to use this CafeOne is you, because we haven't shared it with anybody else and we haven't given security to anybody else. So you see that we've got these little icons up at the top of the screen. And I'm sorry, because I've just assumed now that everybody's looking at my presentation, but you'll see them on your screen too. So up next to where it's showing the name of your CafeOne layout, you've got your save button. You have a save as if you want to create another CafeOne based off of this view. There's a little button with an arrow. So that is where if you were creating this and you wanted to request to be able to publish this out to other people, this would change the status behind the scenes on your CafeOne page from the fact that it's currently basically retained by you for editing, and it would make it to where it could be approved to be shared with other users if they have security to use it. If we have time at the end of the session, I'll show you that. We did show it in Vegas, but it's kind of like the last piece of the puzzle. If you created something that you don't want, your little trash cans, obviously the delete button, and you'll also see there's a grayed out one here. If you have previously shared a user-defined object and you want to pull it back to be able to make changes to it, you can use that button to reserve the object and be able to make changes before you would reshare the changes out to other people. All right, so if you managed to create it, if you use the little blue X to close out of the CafeOne page, now it's actually using my layout. I'm going to find an address number here that doesn't give me an error. All right, so if I use address number 4201, it's happier with me and it doesn't give me any errors. And like I said before, I can close this down. Sometimes I don't want the real estate on my screen taken up with this, so I can minimize it, and it will put that little button over on the side so that as soon as I want to see it again, I can open it. And as I make changes to the record that I've got highlighted in my grid, it's going to change the information that's shown over in that CafeOne screen. So like I said, this is useful anywhere that your users are doing one primary task, but needing to see additional detail related to one of the records in the grid. Or you can set up that CafeOne without the dynamic link, and then it's just going to allow you to open up that application and do your normal searches and lookups and everything else in that application. Now, one thing here is if I have got security to be able to edit the records that are in this screen, you'll see that I've got a Save Changes button here. So if I'm looking at this because I'm also needing to manage this data without having to go into the customer master directly and go through to get to my billing information, if I need to change category code or something like that, I can do it right here and I can save the changes. So as long as I've got security that allows me to do that in that application normally, I can do it right here without having to navigate to the application. Anybody have any questions about the CafeOne stuff? All righty. So let me switch back to my PowerPoint for just a sec. So like I said, there's screenshots of all of the steps going through the setup here. An explanation of what each step is doing. All right, we're not doing break time because it's a 90-minute session. All right, so the next one, and I'm going to try not to get too excited about this. I love EnterpriseOne Search. It's I think pretty simple for the power that it's got to mine, display, and control data that is presented to users. I use it pretty extensively when I'm doing new implementations or actually even upgrades, anywhere that we're migrating data in. And I need to be able to validate that I have complete records. So address book is a good one. The client that I'm currently working at is using the transportation module, and in their legacy system, the concept of needing to maintain the country code on their address records was, I mean, it was non-existent, even though they're a global company. And so they kept on having issues when we were trying to do testing with anything in transportation, because if you don't have a country code on your ship to address, it never finds valid rates and routings. So it took me like 3 minutes to create a really simple EnterpriseOne search that I could give a list of the carriers that were missing information. And also I could check and make sure that what was set up as a carrier in the address book had a valid transportation carrier set up in transportation. The other place that I like using EnterpriseOne Search is if I've got a group of users who need to get information from the system, but they're not extensive JD Edwards users. So an example was I had a client who in the warehouse, they were frequently getting returns back from customers that didn't have an RMA number on them. So the first thing that the warehouse user was trying to do was look up based on the customer name and the customer's address, because usually that was included on the package, to try to figure out what address record that was in the system. And the warehouse users just really didn't do inquiries. So trying to get in and look up an address, especially when in the address book, and if I go back to address book for a second, I don't want to talk bad about a system I love, but you've got really limited capability to search on address in here. So even if I display my address information, I can't search on city, state, and zip in here. They're displayed, but I can't search on my address and city, and there is no zip code displayed in here, and it's not part of the business view. So for somebody that's trying to do a lookup based on a customer address, this is kind of limiting. And so it was actually the first time that I had ever used EnterpriseOne Search in a business setting, was to give the warehouse users the ability to put in any part of the customer's name, address, including city, state, and zip, and have it return the address book records that matched it. They could easily put in those search strings, but they had a hard time trying to do anything through the address book. And the other one I love is for sales reps. If you've got internal or external sales reps who aren't really users of JD Edwards transactionally, a lot of times they have trouble getting to grips with how to do inquiries within JD Edwards. And a lot of times you actually don't want them to be able to see everybody else's information. So if I'm a sales rep and I've got a mechanism where I can look at just the customers that are assigned to me, and I can only see their sales orders, and I can only see my commission information, being able to do it through EnterpriseOne Search lets me lock down what an individual user is able to get to, and I'm going to show you that. And I do. I literally sit here internally waving pom-poms when I talk about EnterpriseOne Search, because you can use it in so many different situations. It's almost like a mini reporting tool, but I like the fact that it simplifies navigation for your users to get to the information they need. So rather than going through these slides, I'm going to show you a real simple example. And I'm trying to remember what I've got out here right now. So this little search box up at the top is what is going to drive the search. And what I'm going to do is I created one just as a setup earlier, so I had it to show you. So I'm going to put in a sales rep number. So this is driving from a category code on the customer master. And if I put in, I'm going to say I am sales rep 210. If I put in my number, it's going to show me, first of all, here are the searches that I am allowed to run. I can choose which one I'm going to run. So this is my test one from earlier. And it's going to cycle through, and based on the setup behind this search, which we're going to set up, it's going to return all of the records that match. So from here, all right, so I find a customer and I want some additional information. I can see basic information based on what I included in my search. I've got the customer's address number. I've got the customer's name, search type, who the account rep is, and I've got basic address information here. From here, if I want to, I can export these. So if I use this as my mini reporting tool, I can dump those results into Excel. I can also get additional information from here. So right now, I have got related information. I've only got one set up, but it's going to take me into sales orders for this customer. So think of this like I want to see all of the open orders for this customer, or I want to see everything that that is past due. I want to see everything that we've invoiced year to date. I can have multiple tabs in here that I can flick through. So this could be one tab that is giving me quote information. I could have a tab that is giving me unshipped orders. I could have a tab that's giving me my commission information for this particular customer ledger. So basically anything that I can drive off of the data that my search is based on, I can then use to drive into additional searches. And then I can also get into applications from here. So I've got a couple set up. I can get into the actual customer ledger. So again, if I have got security to be able to go into this application, I'm able to use one of my search results and launch from there to go in and see what is going on with this customer's AR picture. I could set this up to go into sales order entry, sales order inquiry. I've got this set up to also go into my commissions screen. And so you see here, even though my sales rep code is 210, my actual salesperson address number is different. My address number is 6001. So when I come in here, it's only pushing in that sales rep number. Now we could have a conversation about security once we get into this screen. If you don't want people to see other people's commissions information, I would argue that you'd probably want to do this as one of those related information tabs rather than pushing somebody into the actual application. So I'm going to walk through what goes into setting one of these up. It kind of looks like there's a lot of steps to it, but it's actually super simple. So let me close out of here. All right, so from your control point, you're going to go into manage content the same way as we would to create an E1 page. And one of our options is to create search groups. And this is where I'm going to tell the system either what table or what business view I want to build this search over. So you could do this over any standard JD Edwards table. There are some super cool business views that that you can use. And of course, I didn't write down what I'm using for this one. Let me look it up because I know I put it in the PowerPoint. I can never remember it. There we go. So right here. So this business view here is a join over the customer master, the address book, and address by dates. So over the F0101, the 03012, and your F0116. So one of the things that is a pain in the neck if you're trying to do something that's bouncing between both the address book and the customer master is when I get into the customer master, I don't have access to search type. So if somebody has set up customer master records for entities that aren't customers, I can't tell the difference when I'm working in the customer master. So this here is going to give me the ability to build a search that includes address information, customer master information, and also the actual address data. All right, so V03012 JA. And I'm going to add that, and it's going to display for me all of the available fields that are in that view. So what I'm going to do is select the ones that I want to include as part of my search. You can search on these using either the actual name of the database field, or if you know it, you can use the alias for the field. So I am going to add my address book number. I want my customer name. I want my search type. I want my account rep who's in category code 2. Oops. Address line 1, address line 2. So I'm literally just going to go through and add any fields in here that I either want to be able to search on, that I want to display, or that I want to use as selection criteria. So I've got city, state, zip, oops, country, nope, yep. And then I'm going to include Customer status. So a lot of times what I find irritating when I'm doing stuff and I'm trying to check on customers is not being able to tell the difference between my customers that are currently set to be inactive and the ones that are active. If I'm going to be displaying results in this search, I only want to find my active customers. And then because we're going over the multiple tables, this actually in the background uses the who's who record. So I need to also include this line ID so that I don't get duplicate records in here. So what was happening is, this is kind of my shopping list. This is all of the fields in that business view that I could choose to either search on, display to the user, or use as selection criteria within my search, or to derive my related actions, my related information and my actions. I can determine how many records I want to display. So if I set 20, then when I've got 20 matching records, so this is not going to allow me to display the rest of them. So I'm going to set this to 100. And so I've got 3 columns here. I've got a filter column, a sort column, and a sequence. Right now, this is set to filter on everything. So when I type my little search string in my box up at the top of the screen, it right now is going to search against every single one of these things that I've got selected. So if I wanted to narrow it down so that it only searches against the customer name, and it only searches against the physical address lines and my city, state, and zip, then I would uncheck all of the other fields. When I output this, I might want to change what the text is going to be displayed to my users. So I might change this to be customer name rather than alpha name. And what about this? Yeah, it's good for right now. We'll call this type. And then if I want to sequence my results, how do I want to sequence them? Do I want to do it alphabetically based on the customer name? Do I want to do it based on my address number? If you were returning results where you were returning things with dates, for example, you might want it to sequence dates, ascending or descending. As it is, it's going to use the whatever my first field in here if I don't give it any. And if I am sorting, then it'll ask me for a sort sequence. So these are the fields that I can use now. I have to tell it, how do I want this to be displayed when I show it to the customer? So I am going to put my address number. And I've got a choice here. I can either put just the value that is returned, or I can put the label, so it'll say address number, and then it will show me what my value is. So I'm going to do address number, and then I'm going to add my customer name. I'm going to put my search type. And I can keep on and on adding over here. And I'm going to put my account rep. And then I can put as many lines going down as I want. So I'm going to put now my address information without labels, because I'm assuming it's going to be pretty obvious. I've got city and state, zip, and country. So this is what's going to be displayed when the search is actually returned. So you can imagine I can put more fields in each row, and I can also build this out so I've got multiple rows per record. And then I'm going to put some additional filters that's going to control what gets returned. So I only want this to be returned if my sales rep, now I've got to find him, my account rep, if the category code in ACO2 is equal to my account rep number. So I'm only going to allow this one account rep to have security for this, and they're only going to be able to see the results that are for their sales rep, for their customers. I'm also going to search on search type is equal to C. I only want them to see customer information, and I don't want them to see inactive customers. So I'm going to put my customer status is not equal to 1 so that I exclude any inactive customers. And then lastly, I want to only look where my line ID in Who's Who is equal to 1 to stop me getting, nope, actually I want 0, so that I only get the 1 record per customer. If I don't do that, it's actually because this uses the Who's Who behind the scenes, I'll get a record for every single record that's in the Who's Who, even though all of my output information may be the same. That's an odd one. It's not intuitive because you don't see the FO111 in here anywhere. All right, so at that point, that would let me run my my EnterpriseOne search. So I'm going to save my search. And I can come back and edit this as much as I want to. And now I want to define my related information. So bear in mind that when I do the search, I'm going to be returning customer information. Now what I'm going to do is say for that customer, I want to see open sales order information. So first of all, again, I can either get information from a JD Edwards table or from a business view. And I am going to use the sales order detail. And so here it's giving me a list of all of the fields that are in the 4211. And I'm going to choose the fields that I want to display. So I want, and the sequence that you click them is the sequence that they're going to be displayed in the grid. So as I start clicking them, you're going to see in the display area up here what my column headings are going to be when it's returned. So again, if I know the aliases, I can use them. I want my order number. I want my order type. My ship to address number. I want to see my promised ship date. My promised delivery date. I want an item number. I want a unit price, an extended price. And I want to know what my next status code is on the sales order. So these are all going to become my column headings when I click into the related information from my search record. Whoops. Now for each one of these, I can set criteria. So I want to join from, actually I'm going to need to put my sold to address in here as well. I want that to be mapped to the address number that's coming from my search, because I need something from my search result to drive into the related information so that it knows what it's trying to display. I also want on my next status, yeah, you can let me do this. I don't want to do it in there. All right, so that's where these additional filters are going to come in. I just need to scroll down here. There's an awful lot of vertical real estate in here. So under the additional filters, this is where it's going to allow me to further control what is being displayed. I've got mapping from my search on my customer address number, but I also want to include only lines that are unshipped. So I'm going to go less than or equal to next status of 560, so that the only thing that's going to get displayed in this additional information is going to be my unshipped sales orders. And then lastly, I'm going to set up an action while I'm in here, and I'm going to do that to open up to the customer ledger. So P03 2002. And I want to go into my customer ledger inquiry. That version is just fine. And so again, I have to tell it when I go in and execute this action, do I want to pass a value over from my search? And I do. I want to go based on my address number is mapped to the address number from my search. All right, so now I'm going to save this. I never believe it's saved the first time. I pretty much always click twice, and I know it's redundant, but I do it anyway. All right, so then I can close out of this, and now that search is going to be available for me. So like I said, when you're creating these new UDOs, until they get shared and security is given, they're only available to you, but there's an easy process for sharing them and sharing security. So now when I come in here and I type my number, I'm going to see that I've now got this new search that I just created. The little dot next to it tells me that it's only available to me. It hasn't been shared yet. And when I run that, it is going to return for me the records that right now have got me set up as category code 2, have got me set up as the sales rep for this customer. When I go into the related information, it's going to be passing in this address number so that I only see the records for this customer. And it is showing me all of their sales order lines that are currently at next status 560 or less. And you can see that they're all for that customer number. So rather than a sales rep having to sign into JD Edwards, go to the address book or look up the customer number, just by knowing what my sales rep code is, I'm able to see all of the customers that are signed to me. For each one of those customers, I can get into their sales order information with literally one click. I can have a whole series of these lookups over here that will take me into different pieces of information built over different tables or different business views. And then I've also got the capability, if they'll share it with me, I've also got the capability to be able to jump into other applications where I can get additional information for that customer. And I kind of want to wax lyrical and go a little bit deeper into this, but I know that we're going to run out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause in case there are any questions. And then it's kind of up to you. If you want to walk through doing this now, I'm sure it's going to take longer than the 10 minutes that we've got left on the call. So what I'm going to do is I'll stay on and go through this with anybody that wants to go through and set up an E1 search themselves. But I'll also say that this is one of those things that the first time you start trying to do your own, you're probably going to have like 20 questions if you're anything like me. I want to let you know that you are absolutely welcome to reach out to me by email anytime. I'll pop up the slide in a minute so you can get it if you don't have it. If it's easier for you to go through this, you can be driving and I can be the observer. I'm very happy to get on a call and walk you through doing this. So in the slides, it has all of the steps that I just went through. I actually got into a little bit more showing that I wanted to do some sorting and some sequencing. And it goes through what each of these different panels in the configuration does and walks through each one of the steps to recreate the search that I just did. I'm going to send out the slides again. These are some of the, to me, the gems that I use a lot when I'm building these searches. So we've got a similar one to what I was just looking at, but on the supplier master side with address, phone, and address book information. There's a great one if you're looking for item information. So you can go from basically an item search that will also let you get information from the item location, the branch, and the master records. This one here, the third one, the customer master with address, phone, and address book, is the one that I was just using. And then this is a good one if you need to do anything that is joining from transportation shipments to sales order information. And I'll be honest, I'm still discovering them. So those are just kind of my favorite ones that I've tripped over so far. When I have time, I just dig around a little bit and see what else I can find in there that is really good for building these searches. And like I say, I will stay on this call. We'll stop recording. But for anybody that wants to walk through setting up one of those EnterpriseOne searches, I'll happily walk through step by step. And I just realized that I actually have my unmarried name on here. You can email bdurham@terillium.com and it will get to me, or bdanamiller@terillium.com is actually my current name. I just tell everybody, call me Bernie D, we'll be good. I didn't change the last initial. And I'm going to pause there and come back to the control panel and see if we have got any questions. I know that's a ton of information in like 85 minutes. Does anybody have any questions?
Bernie, we do have one question. How do you change an existing search you created?
Okay, good question. Let me go back. All right, so let me get out of here. So if I want to edit an existing search and I haven't published it yet, all I need to do is come back into my manage content, go into my search groups, and I can select. So if I've got multiple ones that I'm still editing, I can see the difference between the ones that haven't been published and shared yet and the ones that have been. So anything that's still here, I can just grab it and edit it because I haven't shared it with anybody yet. If I choose one that has already been shared, then I would have to do this request to reserve it before I could make any changes. But if I've just created it and I want to change it, I select my search name, and then it looks exactly like it did when I was first creating it, and I can change any of these setups. I think the hardest thing that I don't love is there isn't a way to just resequence these in the display and the related information. Once you've added them, if you want to change the sequence, you're having to delete basically all of them and start over, which I find to be a little bit of a pain. So when I do these, I do normally work with whoever's going to be using it and make sure that they're cool with the sequence that it's going to be displayed before I do it, because otherwise you're scrapping it and starting over on the display. Good question. One thing that I didn't really get into, and before I send the slide deck out, I'm actually going to put some additional slides in there, was the piece about working with these user-defined objects. I've talked about the concept of sharing them and setting up the security, but really haven't gone back into it to give you a refresher on that. And I don't think that we had slides that really went through that in detail in the original slide deck. So I will put a little appendix on the end that has some slides about managing those user-defined objects, how you would share them, and how you manage the security so that you can control who sees them. I'll add those slides.
When you send out the slide deck, will it be everything that we covered at Blueprint plus what we just went through today, the complete set?
Yes, so the slide deck, so if I come back over here to the non-view, it's actually, it is the same slide deck that I used at Blueprint. So it's got literally everything, the intro slides and the whole 9 yards.
Perfect, thank you.
And I know I say this like 5 times at the end of calls, but it really does matter to me that people know that I think it's incredibly difficult to try to pick this up in one pass, even if you're sitting there hands on keyboards the entire time. So if you go to do this and you get stuck anywhere, it'll make me smile if I see your names popping up in my email inbox. So please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to hop on a quick call and walk you through anything that you have problems with.